Every time the governor speaks in a church, and she's done a lot of that lately, she takes an armed detail with her. We're simply saying that the family sitting in that pew deserves the same protection that the governor is afforded when she goes into a house of worship.
Even after the Supreme Court decision in the BRUEN case, New York is still trying to restrict gun rights, but we're fighting back. I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. But first, I'm going to tell you about a gun giveaway we have going on. It's happening right now. It's absolutely free, but it ends really soon. All you got to do is click the link to find out which brand new gun you could win. Okay, remember when we were all cheering about that Supreme Court case in BRUEN in New York? New York City can't restrict gun ownership, that sort of stuff. Yeah, big win. Well, guess what? All of these anti-gun states, specifically New York, continue to try to restrict gun ownership and where you can carry your gun, even after this great Second Amendment win by the Supreme Court.
Well, as you may recall, Governor Hochul and the legislature's answer to the Supreme Court's ruling striking down their original concealed carry gun permit law was to approve another package of gun laws. That included a ban on weapons in certain sensitive locations. One in particular cited houses of worship. That's the focus of this particular legal challenge.
So what we're looking at right now is that New York decided suddenly that all churches are sensitive areas, and they tried to put in place a rule that said carrying a gun in a church by anyone is a felony. Well, the Second Amendment Foundation and a couple of ministers from Niagara Falls and the Buffalo area got together and got themselves a temporary restraining order. New York may not impose this law at this time. We're going to fight this in the courts because now all of these states, notably New York and some New Jersey and some of the other ones who looked at this great win in the BRUEN case as an expansion of gun rights. In fact, it wasn't an expansion, it just reaffirmed our gun rights. It did not expand our gun rights. But all of these states continue to fight this by putting further barriers in the way of where we can carry guns and what we can do. And it is time that we all get politically active and make sure that we don't allow this. We need to make sure that we are voting. We need to make sure that we are speaking up, that we are writing letters, that we are pointing out all the places where anti-gun politicians are violating this order from the Supreme Court, this ruling from the Supreme Court that says we have a right to carry a gun to defend ourselves, and we don't have to prove why we need that gun. Defending ourselves is enough proof. The idea that we can defend ourselves against a bad guy is enough proof. Now think about the folly of this for just a minute. Anti-gun politicians will say that it's horrible. People are coming to churches and shooting other people. Yeah, that has occasionally happened. And in some places, they killed lots of people. In places where someone in the church was carrying a gun, they killed very few people, because the armed person in the church was able to stop them immediately.
Frankly, there are people that didn't want it to be known that they were engaging in this, but there are congregants in churches sitting in the pews. Sometimes they're more formal than that, but they are armed for the purpose of there to protect their congregation during morning worship services. Every time the governor speaks in a church, and she's done a lot of that lately, she takes an armed detail with her. We're simply saying that the family sitting in that pew deserves the same protection that the governor is afforded when she goes into a house of worship.
Now, these pastors, both in Buffalo and in Niagara Falls, point out that they want to carry guns to protect themselves and their congregants. That is wonderful. That is what good, law-abiding, God-fearing, gun-owning citizens should be doing. Using your gun only to defend yourself or others from an imminent deadly threat. That's why we carry firearms. That's why we should be allowed to carry firearms in any place where a bad person might come and try to kill us. So, all of these anti-gun politicians want to restrict our rights to protect ourselves, saying this is a sensitive area. You know what? Mass killings happen most often in places where guns are restricted because the killers know no one will be fighting back. We need to make sure that the killers understand people will be fighting back. It's our right to defend ourselves and the ones we love. We need to protect it. Make sure you're getting politically active. You're pulled over by the police and you're carrying concealed. Do you need to do anything special in this scenario? Like tell the officer you have a gun. Click this video right next to me and I'll break down that scenario step by step on what you should do.